Tarin lived a quiet life among machines. He was just a repairman on a small human trade ship named Hope Runner. The ship traveled from planet to planet, delivering supplies, fixing broken systems, and trading small items. Tarin didn't like attention. He preferred wires, tools, and machines more than people. He was not a hero, not a soldier, and definitely not someone important. Most people didn't even remember his name. That morning, the Hope Runner arrived at a bright moon named Zerithia, a place full of shining towers and soft blue skies. It was a royal moon, home to Queen Olari, known across the stars as the most beautiful and powerful ruler in the galaxy. Her people were tall, graceful, and had glowing eyes. Humans were allowed to visit only certain parts of the moon. Others were marked high security and forbidden to outsiders. Tarin was busy checking cargo wires when his friend Relo, a cheerful worker, came running. "Captain said we need you to fix a broken lift near the supply gate," Relo said. "But be quick. The guards here don't like slow humans." Tarin wiped his hands and followed Relo, carrying his toolkit. As they walked near the supply gate, Tarin noticed how clean and perfect everything looked on Zerithia. The buildings sparkled like glass. Strange flowers bloomed along the roads. The air smelled sweet, like warm fruit. The lift was near a tall wall. Tarin crouched and started working. A soft click behind him made him look up. Too late. 2 royal guards in silver armor stood over him, their weapons glowing. "You have entered a restricted zone," one of them said coldly. No, Tarin. Saad, standing up quickly. "I was just fixing the lift." "I didn't know." "Silence," the second guard ordered. "You will come with us." Before Tarin could explain further, he was taken away. Inside the royal security building, Tarin sat in a metal chair, hands cuffed lightly in front. The room was bright but cold. A tall officer walked in and stared at him. "You humans," the officer said with disgust. Always curious, always breaking rules, Tarin stayed quiet. He knew arguing would only make it worse. The officer was about to speak again when a small screen on the wall lit up. Someone important was watching. In a quiet chamber high above the palace, Queen Olari stood in front of a glowing monitor. Her golden dress shimmered with every breath. Long silver hair flowed down her back like a river of stars. She watched the human boy on the screen with deep, thoughtful eyes. "That's him," she whispered. Her royal advisor beside her blinked in confusion. "Your Majesty, him?" "Yes," she said softly. "I have seen his face in the dreams. I saw him standing beside me during the firestorm. I saw him holding the crystal of light. This is the man." The advisor opened his mouth, then closed. He had no words. "Prepare the hall," Olari said. "I will go to him." Back in the room, Tarin was sure he would be sent back to the ship or even punished. But then the door opened again, and everyone stood tall. Queen Olari entered, followed by silent guards and advisors. Tarin blinked. He had never seen someone like her before. Her presence was warm but powerful, like the sun and moon walking in. One body, he didn't know what to say. He felt dirty, tired, and completely out of place. The officer bowed. "Your Majesty, we caught this human trespassing." Olari raised one hand. Silence filled the room. She walked forward, slowly, until she stood right in front of Tarin. She looked into his eyes. Tarin swallowed hard. I'm sorry if I made a mistake." "I didn't mean to." Queen Olari smiled gently. "Your name?" "Is Tarin," she said. He nodded, surprised. "Yes, I am Olari, Queen of Zerithia," she said. "And I declare before all present, this man is my chosen mate." Gasps filled the room. The officer dropped his pen. An advisor coughed loudly. Even the guards looked confused. Tarin's jaw dropped. He thought he misheard her. What?" "You are the man from my vision," she said calmly. "You will stand by me in the time of storm. You are not just a visitor, you are part of my fate." "I'm just a repairman," Tareen said quietly. I fix broken panels and lift motors. I don't understand. Your soul shines brighter than any jewel, she said. That is enough. The room stayed frozen in silence. Nobody knew what to say. Tareen felt like he had stepped into a dream. This had to be a mistake. A queen, the queen, calling him her mate? Why him? He didn't even know how to talk to royalty. His clothes were dusty. His boots had holes. And yet, she looked at him like he was something important. The queen turned to the guards. Release him. The cuffs open. Tareen stood slowly, still confused. Come, she said. You are safe now. Outside, the news spread like wildfire. Across the moon, and then across the galaxy, the Queen of Zerethia has chosen a human as her mate. The report said. Some cheered. Some laughed, some were shocked. Others were angry. Back on the Hope Runner, Relo stared at the news on a screen and dropped his sandwich. Tareen? Our Tareen? And deep in the dark corners of space, enemies of peace began to whisper. To be continued. In Part 2, The Queen's Choice, Tareen is taken into the palace, where nobles and generals demand answers. Meanwhile, Alari stands firm in her vision, unaware that danger is rising from the stars. Tareen walked through the golden halls of the royal palace like a man in a dream. Shining walls surrounded him. Guards in silver armor followed silently behind. Beautiful plants glowed softly from corners, and small floating lights lit up the path. Ahead, everything felt too big, too perfect. It was hard to believe this was real. Beside him walked Queen Alari. She was calm and graceful, her golden dress flowing like water. Her eyes held a peaceful strength, and when she looked at Tareen, it was as if the world became quiet. But Tareen's heart was racing. He didn't belong here. He was a technician, a man from a small Earthship. Not someone who walked beside queens. Not someone who was called mate by the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. He finally found the courage to speak. Your Majesty, he said softly. You may call me Alari, she said, smiling. I don't understand, Tareen said. Why me? You said you saw me in a vision, but I don't have anything special. I'm just a normal human. I fix machines. Alari stopped walking. She turned and looked at him kindly. Tareen, she said, greatness is not always found in loud voices or big weapons. Sometimes it is found in quiet hands and brave hearts. He looked away, not knowing what to say. She gently took his hand. I do not expect you to understand everything now. Just walk beside me. That is enough. They entered a large hall filled with royal advisors, generals, and noble guests. Everyone had heard the news. Everyone had come to see if it was true. At the center stood High Advisor Rayler, an old man with sharp eyes and a long blue robe. He bowed to the queen, then glanced at Tareen with clear doubt. Your Majesty, Rayler said, we have received word from many star systems. They ask if the news is true. Have you truly chosen a human, an outsider, as your mate? I have, Alari said without hesitation. Gasps filled the room. Rayler frowned. But this man has no title, no training, no known history. He is not from a royal family. He is not even from our world. Alari's voice was steady. He is not from Zerethia. But he is brave, kind, and honest. I have seen him in my visions. He is part of our future. One noble lady, Lady Cyril, stepped forward. Forgive me, Your Majesty, but visions can change. We must think of the alliances. The Quran Empire has waited years to bond with Zerethia through marriage. If you break this path, war may come. Another noble, General Tovar, added, if the queen bonds with a human, it may insult half the galaxy. Some races still see humans as weak and simple. Tareen stood still, feeling all eyes on him. He wanted to disappear, but Alari lifted her chin. I will not choose a partner based on fear. I will not trade my people's peace for fake unity built on lies. I follow what is true, not what is easy. Her words echoed through the hall. Advisor Raller's voice became sharp. Then let the human speak. Let him tell us why he is worthy. All heads turned to Taurine. He froze. His mind went blank. What could he say? That he fixed a power core last week? That he once survived an electrical storm by hiding in a metal box? He looked at the Queen. She nodded slowly, giving him strength. Taurine took a deep breath. I know. I'm not a warrior, he said. I didn't grow up in a palace. I don't have royal blood. I grew up fixing machines and learning to stay out of trouble. The room stayed silent, but I also know what it means to struggle, he continued. Humans don't always win, but we never stop trying. We fix what is broken. We keep moving forward, even when no one believes in us. He looked at the crowd. His voice quiet but strong. I didn't ask to be chosen. But if the Queen believes I can help her people, I will try. I will not run away. There was a pause. Then, a young noble in the back, Prince Jovan, stood and clapped once. Others looked at him in surprise. Courage does not always shout, he said. Sometimes it speaks softly and means more. A few others nodded. Not everyone was convinced, but something had changed. Taurine had spoken from the heart, and that meant something. Later that evening, Taurine sat alone in a quiet garden. The stars above Zerithia shone brightly. Small lights floated above flowers, glowing gently like fireflies. He heard footsteps. Alari came and sat beside him on a smooth stone bench. You spoke well today, she said. I was scared, Taurine admitted, but I didn't want to let you down. She looked at him with warm eyes. You did not. You stood tall, even when the world doubted you. That is what makes you strong. Taurine looked at the stars. Do you think they'll accept me? Not all at once, she said. But they will see your heart like I did. They sat in silence for a while. Then Alari said softly, the stars have started to move. Taurine looked at her. What do you mean? My visions are becoming clearer, she said. And they show danger coming. Dark ships, war drums, betrayal from those close to the throne. Taurine's heart sank. You mean because of me? No, she said, shaking her head. Because of fear, but fear can be faced, together. She reached out and took his hand again. Taurine nodded, still unsure of the future, but no longer feeling alone. The palace of Zerithia was calm on the outside, but inside its walls, whispers had begun to grow louder. Every hall, every chamber, and every garden had ears. Servants, guards, and even advisors watched with sharp eyes and quiet lips. They spoke in soft voices when they talked about Taurine, the human who had somehow become the Queen's chosen mate. Some called him lucky. Others called him a mistake. But a few called him a threat. Taurine had stayed in the palace for only a few days, yet it already felt like a different world. Servants brought him food and clothes, but most of them avoided his eyes. Nobles walked past him with cold looks. Even the guards, who bowed to the Queen without question, didn't trust him yet. He didn't blame them. He was still just a man who fixed machines, now living among people with glowing skin, mind-reading gifts, and long family lines of rulers and warriors. It felt like standing inside a painting where he didn't belong. And worst of all, he could feel it. Someone wanted him gone. Late one evening, Taurine walked in the palace library. It was quiet and peaceful, filled with floating lamps and old star maps. He enjoyed the silence here. The books made more sense than the people did. But that night, someone else was there. An old man with a silver beard and a long dark robe stood near the star globe, studying him. You are the Queen's chosen? The man asked. Taurine nodded slowly. Yes, sir. I am Lord Valen, the man said. High Scholar of Zerithia. Taurine gave a small bow. Nice to meet you. Valen stepped closer, his eyes sharp. You do not belong here. Taurine stayed silent. You speak kindly and act polite. But this palace is not for your kind. The queen has chosen you, but the stars may not agree. Tarin frowned. If the queen believes I'm meant to be here, I'll trust her. Velen leaned in slightly. There are those in this palace who do not trust her dreams. You should be careful. Then, without another word, he turned and left. The next day, Tarin met Rani, a young assistant to the queen. She had short hair, quick hands, and a smile that came easily. She was one of the few who treated Tarin like a real person. I heard. Lord Velen spoke to you, she said as she handed him a small fruit drink. Yeah, Tarin said. He warned me, said some people don't want me here. Rani looked around and lowered her voice. It's true. Some think the queen is making a mistake. They say a human can't understand royal ways. But, she paused. Some just don't want to lose power. What do you mean? Alari has always ruled alone. If she bonds with you, everything changes. New rules, new voices, and not everyone likes change. Tarin nodded slowly. He didn't want power. He didn't want a crown. But he did want to stand by Alari, because she believed in him when no one else did. That night, while Tarin was sleeping in his guest room, a soft beep came from the wall near his bed. He sat up quickly. A message flashed on the screen. Danger. Leave the room now. Tarin's heart raced. He grabbed his shoes and stepped into the hallway. The lights were dim. The palace was quiet. He turned a corner and saw smoke. A small spark flew from a wall panel near the energy pipes. Then another, then fire. A sudden explosion rocked the floor. Guards came running, shouting orders. Tarin saw a small servant child, crying, trapped on the wrong side of the hallway near the fire. Without thinking, he ran forward, dodged the flames, and lifted the child into his arms. The fire grew louder, but he kept running. A moment later, a metal door closed behind him as he leapt into safety. The guards reached him, eyes wide. You saved her, one of them said. The child, still shaking, looked up at Tarin with grateful eyes. The fire was put out, but the question remained. Why had the energy panel exploded? Later that evening, Alari called a private meeting in the moonlight chamber. Only trusted advisors were present. Tarin stood beside her. The fire was no accident, said General Tovar. We found a time device inside the wall. Someone wanted it to explode. Alari's eyes narrowed. Who would do such a thing inside my palace? No one answered. Tarin spoke quietly. It happened just outside my room. It wasn't just a random attack. Someone wanted me gone. The room went still. Advisor Raller frowned. We must tighten palace security. No outsider can be trusted. Alari's voice was firm. Tarin is no outsider. He is under my protection. Whoever did this is not just attacking him. They are attacking me. Everyone bowed. Later, Tarin stood on the palace balcony, looking out at the stars. Alari joined him. You could leave, she said softly. I would not blame you. Tarin looked at her. You chose me. And I trust you. I won't run, she smiled. The future is uncertain, but your heart is steady. He smiled back. I might not be from this world, but I won't let fear win. If someone wants me gone, they'll have to do more than scare me. Alari stepped closer. Good, because the stars are shifting. Something dark is coming. She looked up at the sky, and we must be ready. To be continued in Part 4. Fire in the halls. A deeper plot unfolds. When an assassin enters the palace during a royal celebration, Tarin must act fast and prove once again that humans may be ordinary, but never powerless. The palace of Zerithia was alive with light and music. Colored lamps floated in the air, glowing like tiny stars. The great halls were decorated with shining silk and bright crystals. Guests from many worlds had come. It was a night of celebration. Queen's formal announcement that she had chosen a mate. Tarin stood at the side of the ballroom. dressed in a silver robe that Ronnie had picked for him. His hair was brushed neatly, and a small royal badge sat on his chest. But still he felt nervous. All eyes kept turning toward him, some with curiosity, some with confusion, and a few with quiet anger. Queen Alari stood at the center of the room, speaking with leaders from nearby star systems. Her smile was calm, but her eyes kept checking Tareen from across the room, as if she was making sure he was safe. Tareen took a sip of a blue drink and stepped back from the crowd. He saw Ronnie talking to a servant. Her face serious, she noticed. Tareen walked over quickly. "There's something wrong," she whispered. Tareen frowned. "What do you mean?" "Too many guards were moved away from the ballroom," Ronnie said. "They said it's for security adjustment, but I've worked here for 3 years. This isn't normal." Tareen felt a chill. He remembered the fire near his room, the strange message, the warning from Lord Valen. Someone was trying to harm him, or maybe a Saliari. Suddenly, the music slowed. A group of royal dancers entered the hall, performing with glowing ribbons and smooth movements. Everyone turned to watch. It was beautiful. But Tareen couldn't focus. His instincts whispered, "This is a distraction." Tareen stepped carefully through the side hall. He looked behind curtains, checked corners, and listened. Then he heard something. A click, metal sliding. Then silence. He turned sharply and saw a tall figure dressed in servant clothes, but the belt was wrong. No servant wore a metal weapon. On their side, the figure turned and froze when they saw Tareen. Without thinking, Tareen shouted, "Guard!" But the man moved fast. He pulled out a small blade and ran straight toward the ballroom. Tareen followed. The music was still playing, and the guests were clapping. Tareen burst into the room from the side door. "Stop him!" Alari turned sharply just as the attacker pulled out a hidden blade and ran toward her. The guards were too far. Tareen didn't think. He grabbed a serving tray from a table and threw it as hard as he could. The metal tray hit the attacker's hand with a loud clang. The blade flew from his grip. Tareen jumped forward and tackled the man to the ground. The crowd gasped. Guards ran in and grabbed the attacker, locking his arms. Alari rushed over. "Tareen! Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," he said, breathing hard. "He was aiming for you." She looked down at the man and spoke firmly. "Who sent you?" The attacker gave a small laugh. "You chose wrong, Queen. The stars will burn you for it." Then he bit something hidden in his mouth, and his body went limp. The room went silent. Later that night, Alari stood in the war chamber with Tareen, Ronnie, and a few trusted advisors. General Tovar pointed to a screen. This man was not from Zerithia. He came from the Rallan Syndicate, a powerful group known for secret attacks. Someone paid him to kill the Queen during the celebration. Advisor Raller frowned. "This is more than jealousy. Someone is trying to break this kingdom," Ronnie spoke softly. "It's connected to your bond with Tareen. They see it as a threat to their power." Tareen stepped forward. "Then we should find who paid the attacker," Alari nodded. "We will. But from now on, we must stay alert." She turned to Tareen. "You saved my life tonight." "I just did what anyone would do." "No," she said. "You did what a true partner would do." The next day, rumors filled the palace. Some said the Queen's human mate had jumped in front of an assassin. Others said he threw a weapon across the room. The story changed with every mouth that told it, but one thing remained clear. Tareen had protected the Queen. Even the guards who once watched him with doubt now greeted him with quiet respect. That evening, Tareen stood on the garden balcony. The stars above Zerithia glowed gently. Alari joined him, her long robe brushing the ground softly. She looked up at the stars. "Many say the stars guide us. Do you believe that?" Tareen asked. "I believe they whisper. But we choose whether to listen." She turned to him. "You were not born for this world, Tareen, but you are shaping its future." He looked at her. "I don't have powers. I don't come from a noble house. But I won't run. Not from you. Not from danger. She reached out and took his hand. Then let us face what comes. Together. They stood there quietly, stars above and firelight below, knowing that the peace of this moment would not last, because somewhere in the galaxy, enemies were gathering. To be continued in Part 5. The Dark Planets Rise. The Queen receives word that a secret alliance has been formed against Zerithia. Tareen must travel beyond the palace into the unknown, where danger hides among the stars. A new danger was growing. Just 3 days after the attack at the celebration, Queen Alari received a secret message. It came from a spy ship hiding in the outer edge of the Valmara system, a place ruled by dark warlords and secret traitors. Message was short but clear. The dark planets are forming an alliance. They plan to strike Zerithia. The Queen's bond with the human has started a storm. Alari stood in the war room, her face calm but her eyes full of worry. General Tovar looked at the map glowing in the air. If Velmara joins hands with Rallin and the Syndicate, we will be surrounded. They could attack from 3 sides. Advisor Raller folded his arms. They see our Queen's choice as weakness. They fear that her unity with the human will spread. Peace where they want war. Alari nodded slowly. Then we must know more. We must send someone to find the truth. Turin stood quietly at the side, listening. He stepped forward. I'll go. Everyone turned to him. I'm not from here, Turin said. But that also means I'm not known. I can move without being noticed. Let me go to Velmara. Let me find out what they're planning. Alari looked at him with concern. It's dangerous. I know, he said, but I want to help. I'm not just here to stand beside you. I want to protect this place, and you. The next morning, Turin stood in front of a small royal ship. It was black and quiet, built for stealth. Rani handed him a small silver badge. This will show you're a guest of the Queen if you get into trouble, she said. But don't show it unless you must. He smiled. Thanks, Rani. She nodded and looked serious. Come back safe, okay? Alari arrived just before the ship took off. She stepped close to Turin and touched his hand. You are brave, she said softly, but be careful. Velmara is not like Zerithia. Trust is rare, and kindness is often a mask. I'll remember, he said. Then he stepped into the ship, and the doors closed behind him. Velmara was a cold and shadowed world. Its cities floated in the sky, connected by bridges and powered by stolen energy from nearby moons. Turin wore dark clothes and kept his head down. He walked through crowded markets, listening to voices, watching people. He heard talk of war. Zerithia is soft now, one trader said. The Queen is blinded by love, said another. A human? As her mate, it's a joke. But then he heard something else. They're meeting at Dravenpoint, near the dead crater. Big leaders, secret plan. That was what he needed. That night, Turin followed the shadows to Dravenpoint. It was an old building near the crater's edge, broken and empty on the outside. But inside, he found hidden ships and quiet guards. He climbed up a side pipe and hid behind metal beams. Below him, 3 figures stood in the light. One was from the Rallin Syndicate, the second from Velmara, and the third wore royal robes. Turin single quotes S. Eyes widened. It was Lord Vilen, the scholar from Zerithia. Vilen spoke in a low voice. The Queen is blinded. If we strike within the month, her bondmate will be away, her palace weak. Take Zerithia before the bond is complete. The Velmaran nodded, and we get full control of the Star Bridge routes. Rallin's leader laughed, and I get revenge. Turin recorded everything with a small crystal hidden in his sleeve, but as he turned to leave, his foot slipped. A piece of metal clanged loudly. The men below turned. Someone's up there. Guards ran toward the stairs. Turin jumped down a side hatch and ran into the night. Blaster fire lit up the air behind him. Turin reached his ship, panting. He launched into the sky just as enemy ships chased him. He flew low through the clouds. Dodging blasts, the controls shook in his hands. One wing was hit. Smoke filled the cabin, but he pushed forward. He needed to return to Zerithia. He needed to tell Alari the truth. Back at the palace, alarms rang as Tarin's ship came in hot. Damaged ship crash-landed near the garden field. Guards ran forward, weapons ready. But when the door opened, Tarin stepped out, coughing and tired but alive. "I have proof," he said. "Lord Velen is working with them." In the throne room, Alari watched the message from Tarin's recorder. Velen's face, his voice, his plan, it was all there. The queen stood slowly. Her voice was cold and clear. "Velen has betrayed Zerithia." Guards ran to arrest him, but Velen was already gone. "He fled last night," a soldier said. "Took a private ship." Alari's hands formed tight fists. Tarin stepped forward. "We have to stop him. If he returns to Velmara, they'll attack us together." The queen nodded. "Then we prepare for war. But this time we fight as one." Later that night, Tarin and Alari stood on the palace roof. "I didn't know who I was when I arrived here," Tarin said. "But now I do. I'm not just a guest anymore." Alari smiled. "No, you are my mate. And together we will stand against the dark." They looked up at the stars. The sky above Zerithia was no longer calm. Dark ships from the Velmara Alliance floated near the outer edge of the kingdom's space. Dozens of warships, heavy and loud, pointed their weapons toward the stars of Zeri to Hia. In the palace, Queen Alari stood in her war robes. They were not decorated with jewels this time, but with armor-strong silver with her royal symbol across the chest. Tarin stood beside her, also in armor. It was lighter than the guards, made for speed and movement. His face showed no fear, only quiet focus. They were ready. General Tovar entered the war chamber with reports. "Velen has joined the enemy. Their ships crossed into our warning zone 1 hour ago. They haven't fired yet, but they will." Alari nodded. "Prepare our fleet." Zerithia's warships lifted into the sky. They were fewer in number but faster, and stronger in design. Silver and blue vessels lined up like a wall. Smaller fighter ships moved like birds, ready to strike from all sides. Tarin sat inside a command ship next to Rani, who now wore the badge of captain. "I never thought we'd be fighting a space war," he said. Rani smiled slightly. "I never thought I'd trust a human to watch my back in battle. But here we are." A message came through the main screen. It was Alari's voice, calm and steady. "To all Zerithians, today we do not fight for land or power. We fight for our people, for our home, and for peace. We fight with courage, and we fight together." Her voice gave everyone strength. Tarin looked at the screen showing the enemy ships. Among them, he spotted one large command ship, Velen's. Battle began when the Velmaran ships fired first. Red beams of light shot across the sky. Explosions filled space as the two fleets clashed. Tarin's ship moved through the chaos. "Left side!" he shouted as a blast flew past. "Shields down to 60, Rani called. "We need cover." Tarin made a sharp move and flew under a larger Zerithian cruiser, avoiding 2 missiles. "Target Velen's ship," he said. "We stop him. We break their lead." In the palace, Alari led from her throne room, giving orders and watching every screen. "Pull back the right wing," she said. "Let them chase. We'll trap them between our rear ships." She watched the battlefield like a master chess player, her mind quick and sharp. But her heart ached for the people flying out there, including Tarin. Suddenly, one of her guards shouted, "A small ship is heading straight toward the palace." "What?" She turned. "Show me." A stealth enemy ship had broken through. It wasn't aiming at the fleet, it was aiming at her. Tarin single quotes. S-ship shook from another blast. The command screen blinked red. "Shields at 30%. Rani yelled. Then a new warning came. Emergency alert. Enemy ship near the palace. Tarin's heart dropped. They're trying to take Alari, he said. Or worse. He turned the ship without waiting. We go back now. But the battle, Rani began. I trust the Queen's plan. She said we fight together. That means protecting her too. Near the palace, the enemy ship landed in the gardens. 3 dark soldiers stepped out, moving fast. One carried a small device meant to break through the throne room doors. But as they reached the steps, Tarin's ship came crashing down in front of them. The enemy soldiers raised their weapons, but Tarin jumped out with a blaster in hand. Rani and 2 guards followed. Tarin fired first, hitting the weapon out of one attacker's hand. A short but fierce fight followed. Blasts of light flashed through the garden. One enemy fell. Then another. The last one ran back toward the ship, but Rani shot the engine. Boom. The enemy ship exploded behind him. Tarin ran into the palace. Alari! She was already standing near the throne with her guards. Her eyes met his, wide with surprise and relief. You came back. He nodded. I always will. Above the skies, the enemy fleet noticed something strange. Their command ship Velens was no longer giving orders. Confusion spread. Zirithian ships moved faster, tighter, striking weak points. Slowly, the enemy ships began to retreat. In the war chamber, General Tovar smiled. We've broken their control. They're falling back. Cheers filled the command rooms. Later that evening, the sky of Zirithia was peaceful again. Broken ships floated far above, waiting to be gathered. Fire crews worked to clear the fields, but the worst was over. In the grand hall, Queen Alari stood in front of her people. This day will be remembered, she said. Not for fear, but for bravery. Not for power, but for unity. We have stood together, and we have won. The crowd clapped loudly. Tarin stood beside her. His armor scratched, but his face calm. Alari turned to him. This man is not only my mate, she said to everyone. He is now a protector of Zirithia. He has saved me, this palace, and our future. Tarin was speechless as the crowd clapped again. Rani nudged him from the side. Better get used to this, hero. That night, in the quiet garden under the stars, Alari and Tarin walked slowly. No one knew what would happen when I said you were my mate, she said. I didn't know either, he said. But now I do. I'm not just here because of fate. I'm here because I choose you, Alari smiled. And I choose you. They stood hand in hand, the stars shining above them. But far away, deep in another corner of space, a shadow moved. The battle may have ended, but the story wasn't over. To be continued in part 7. The Queen's final choice. Peace has returned, but not for long. A hidden force begins to rise, threatening everything the Queen and her mate have fought for. In the end, one choice will decide the fate of the galaxy. Peace had returned to Zirithia, but only for a moment. The battle had been won, but the cost was heavy. Many ships were damaged, and some brave souls would not return. Queen Alari and Tarin stood together on the palace balcony, watching the calm stars above. This victory is just the beginning, Alari said softly. There are forces we have not yet seen. Dark powers that watch us from the shadows. Tarin nodded. We fought their soldiers, but what if their leaders have more dangerous plans? Alari's eyes shone with determination. Then we must be ready to face them, together. Days later, the Queen received a message from a distant planet called Nyrax, a place rumored to be home to powerful beings who controlled the flow of energy between worlds. The message was a warning. The true enemy is not the alliance you faced. A greater darkness grows. If you do not act, Zirithia and the Kaend galaxy will fall. Alari called her council. We have been fighting the smaller storms, she said. But now the real storm approaches. Tarin stood beside her. What can we do? We must travel to Nyrax, Alari answered. Seek allies. Learn what this darkness is. The next morning, Tareen and Alari prepared for their journey. The palace buzzed with activity. Soldiers, scientists, and diplomats gathered to send the queen and her mate safely. Rani handed Tareen a small box. For protection, she said with a smile. Inside was a crystal that could create a strong energy shield. Tareen thanked her. He felt ready, but also nervous. This was a new kind of challenge. The journey to Nyrax was long and quiet. Stars moved past the ship like sparks in the night. Finally, they arrived at a glowing planet covered in crystal forests and shimmering lakes. They were greeted by Ellen, a tall being with eyes that glowed like moons and skin that sparkled like the planet. Welcome, Queen Alari and Tareen, Ellen said in a soft voice. We have watched your fight. We see your courage, Alari bowed. We seek your help. A dark force threatens to destroy all we know, Ellen nodded. The darkness you speak of is the void, a power that consumes light and life. It grows stronger every day. Ellen led them through the crystal forest to a great hall where ancient machines hummed with energy. The void cannot be fought with weapons, Ellen explained. It must be sealed with the power of unity, the bond between worlds and hearts. Alari looked at Tareen. Our bond has already started to change the galaxy, she said. But is it enough? Ellen smiled gently. Love is a force stronger than war. But to defeat the void, you must show the galaxy that your bond is true and unbreakable. Back on Zerithia, news spread that the queen and her mate were seeking new allies. Some doubted. Others hoped. Tareen realized that this journey was more than a mission, it was a test. A test of faith, trust, and courage. On Nyrax, Alari and Tareen joined hands and stood before an ancient machine. Ellen instructed them to place their hands on two glowing crystals. A warm light surrounded them. Their bond glowed brighter than ever. Images flashed before their eyes of galaxies coming together, of peace rising from chaos. Suddenly, a voice spoke inside their minds. Together, you hold the power to bind the stars. But then, the ground shook. Shadows moved in the crystal forest. The void had found them. Dark creatures with smoky forms attacked. Alari and Tareen fought side by side, their bond giving them strength. With the energy from the crystals, they pushed the darkness back. When the fight ended, Ellen smiled. You are ready, she said. Take this power back to your world. She handed them a small, glowing orb. This is the heart of unity. It will protect Zerithia and bring peace if your bond stays strong. Back on Zerithia, Alari held the orb high. To all who doubt us, she said, know this, our strength is in our unity. The bond between me and Tareen is not just love. It is the future of our galaxy. Tareen looked at her with pride. Together, they had faced fear, betrayal, and war. Together, they would face whatever came next. The stars shone brightly that night. The most beautiful queen in the galaxy and her mate stood hand in hand, ready to lead their people to a new dawn.